Guten Abend und willkommen to QI. Tonight we're dallying in Deutschland. And joining me on the panel we have the Germanic Rob Brydon. Joined by the Teutonic Sean Locke. The Wagnerian Joe Brand. And the jerry-built Alan Davis. And tonight, to attract my attention with an Achtung, the panel have the very latest in precision-engineered buzzers. Rob goes... Sean goes. Joe goes. And Alan goes.
Don't let's be beastly to the Germans.
And I should warn you that I'll be cracking down very hard, panelistas, on any mention of the war. Don't mention the war. You have been warned. So, since we're talking about Germany, let's define our terms. There are some words that we don't have English, and we sometimes borrow them from Germany. I want you to give me a sentence using, correctly, the word Schadenfreude.
A whole sentence?
If you can manage.
That statue's all covered in Schadenfreude.
It's a sentence, but
Must have been a cold night.
Look at the size of my Schadenfreude.
Oh. Any other thoughts? Familiar with the phrase? Oh, yes.
I enjoyed the Schadenfreude I experienced when my husband was killed by a local gangster.
It's a correct use of the word Schadenfreude. Correct, but deeply in need of therapy. Yeah. So Schadenfreude means...
Pleasure in the misfortune of others.
Pleasure in the misfortune of others. And there is no English phrase for it, so we had to borrow it from the Germans. Does the word Gemütlichkeit mean anything to you?
Dare you.
That sounds kind of Jewish. That's like a Jackie Bass syndicate, or Huntedheit, Gemütlichkeit. I don't know what he's talking about. Why should it be? How ironic that it's actually German.
Well, it's not ironic, because Yiddish is German the Jews use.
I knew that.
Is Gesundheit Yiddish?
Gesundheit is German. It just means, literally, soundness or health. Yeah. Oh. But Gemütlichkeit mean anything to you?
No idea.
No. It's a word that, particularly in Austria and Bavaria, but all around Germany, it sort of signifies a kind of coziness, a charm, an ease, a relaxed, pleasant feeling.
Swingers party.
Gemütlich people are also good community people. They're very kind to their neighbours. And...
Is it the German brand name for Rohypnol?
Such cynics. It was considered so important for things like Austrian holidays. There was a reasonably famous case in the early 70s of a man who sued a travel company because there was no Gemütlichkeit on his holiday, and he won. He won for lack of Gemütlichkeit. Yeah.
Was that like lack of a nice feeling?
A nice warm feeling. It was called Jarvis versus Swan Tours Limited in 1973. It was precedent in English contract law, apparently. OK, well, I'll try... Zugzwang? Mean anything to you? It's used in chess.
Checkmate, stalemate?
No, it's slightly like stalemate, it isn't, though. It's for one player where his disadvantage is that he has to move. And in chess, you have to move. Obviously, if your opponent has moved, it's your move. You can't just say, I pass, you can now move. And by moving, you weaken your position, sometimes fatally, and that's called being in Zugzwang.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, so I'll try one more. Zeitgeist, you'll know that one.
Zeitgeist, yes,
Yeah.
I've heard of that. There's sort of something in the air that everyone feels, and it leads to similar ideas happening.
Yeah.
Spirit of the age.
Spirit of the age. It literally means time ghost or time spirit. Yeah, exactly. Well, you did pretty well on your German.
Turns out that German words are not in the zeitgeist.
It seems not. It seems that they aren't. They're not in
See
your...
what I did there? Did a German word joke. I didn't even know I had one.
German words are not in your Weltanschauung.
Indeed.
Yeah. Well, good. We use a loan word when we're overwhelmed with that Weltschmerz and Angst because we don't have one of our own. One of the many ways that our German friends have contributed to the Gestalt of the English language. How upset are the Germans about the 1966 World Cup?
Well, very, I would say.
See?
Well, they would be if they surely, I would have thought, a proud nation like the Germans.
They were upset at the time, but I said, how upset are they? They barely remember it. If you asked every German who won the World Cup in 1966...
Yeah, they're
they wouldn't.
pretending.
No,
say
because
that.
the fact is...
World Cup? No, I don't know.
No, because we care about it, they don't. They care about their scores against Holland. That's their big thing. They really, honestly, if you ask the average German, they're just 66. They really don't know. Oh, did you? Well done, you know.
International...
For us, it was like everything. Wow, we won. But they, in 1974, beat the Dutch, and that, to them, was the one they really, really care about.
But they surely, the Dutch have never provided a great deal of opposition to them. Generally, in history, they've just walked into Holland whenever they fancied it.
Oh, in that sense.
Any time they want, they just go into Holland, which is just like spin the windmills. I haven't mentioned it yet. I was talking about the great Geschmerz-slip in 1762, where they just walked into Holland, but they can just enter. Oh, I'll mention the War of Holland. You have to. Surely they're denying their true rivalry, which will be with us.
Why?
They're in denial.
We may think that, but it's up to them to decide. I mean, you can't force a
wrong.
German to care about whether they beat us or not.
Well, they bloody well should.
Yes, I'm sure you're very upset by it, but I mean, they just don't care that much. And there are other things like the sun lounge hogging with the towel.
Yeah.
Is that something you've actually experienced?
Yeah.
There's a picture of it.
These are some of Alan's holiday photos he brought with him.
It turns out that a German lawyer called Ralf Höcker actually did a study, and he confirms that we think it. But Germans are blissfully unaware of their reputation in this case.
No,
But
really?
a study by
I
Halifax...
think they don't care, is the right description of it.
They just don't... They don't know that's what we think of them.
They
But
think
Halifax
it's
Travel
just
Insurance...
common sense
Yeah.
to go down before breakfast, basically at dawn,
It turns
take
out
all the beds around the pool.
that Halifax Travel Insurance in 2009 confirmed with a study that Germans are the most likely to reserve sun lounges with towels. And which nation do you think is the second most likely to?
The Dutch.
The British.
The British.
Yeah, very
Who
close.
turn up
In
10
fact.
minutes later and go,
Exactly. Well, the French and Italians and Portuguese are having breakfast and not really
Well, and
caring.
also they're in their own countries,
Yeah, well, that's... that's true.
enjoying the lovely food and
yeah.
weather.
That is highly true. Highly true.
I had a run-in with some Germans on holiday once. I'm sad to say, because I like Germans on the whole. And I'd walked through the hotel past a group of Germans who didn't realise I understood German. And as I went past, one of them said, whoa, whoa. There goes the sad, fat English. Something rude. And so I railed at them in my pidgin German, which made them laugh even more. And then the next morning, I had to walk past them on my way round the pool, because obviously they'd sat down in all the nice chairs. And I went past with my head held high like that, sat down on a deck chair, went through it.
Oh,
And they pointed
They
and laughed.
sabotaged it. So they left the one chair, they'd already weakened it, perforated it in some way. Yeah, the English father, I got
That's very good, I remember that.
The other stereotype we have of Germans, of course, is they're efficient, and they think that of themselves as well, but they anticipate that we think of them as lederhosen-wearing beer drinkers. But what do they think of us? What are the 6 major thoughts that Germans have about the British?
It'll be probably a bit smelly, beery,
Untidy,
hair.
they would
Untidy,
say. They think of us
scruffy.
as untidy.
Violent.
Well, that we come in mobs, certainly.
Yeah.
That we're obsessed with royalty, apparently. They think we're all obsessed with royalty. That we drink tea all the time. That we're rather reserved. And we can't cook.
So they've been over then.
Yeah, they've visited. Pretty accurate summation, I fear. If not, they've certainly read our newspapers.
Yeah.
There you are. The fact is, we may think of the Germans as our great rivals on the football field, but they're more interested in caning the Dutch. But why did the Germans confiscate the Dutchman's trousers?
What, the Dutch... Is there some special Dutch trouser? Am I missing some Dutch trouser?
When was the
thing?
World Cup held in Germany?
74 and 2006.
2006. Now, in 2006, a group of Dutch fans, in fact, hundreds of thousands of Dutch fans, thought it would be rather charming to buy some orange lederhosen that were provided for them, which had 2 big pockets they could put beer in, and they had a lion's tail. They were called Leeuwenhosen in Dutch, which means lion trouser, lion pants. There they are, big pockets for their beer.
They look like they work for EasyJet.
They do, don't they? They do. It's the same colour, the colour of Holland, the orange, as of Nassau. But these were confiscated en masse to such an extent that all the Dutch fans that came to the first Dutch game against the Côte d'Ivoire, the Ivory Coast, had them taken away, so they had to watch in their underpants. So why? That's my question. Why? Why, Alan?
They
Why
could, be
take a
used, they could be used as a catapult.
No, I'm afraid it's a...
Now, they probably thought it's not going to be a very good match. We want a shots of loads of people in their pants during the game.
Do they manufacture it? Do they have some kind of logo on them?
Well, they do, you can see. What does it
Oh,
say?
sponsorship. It's just because of their sponsorship.
I fear it's true that the
Yeah.
official
People have paid
FIFA
for-
beer was not Bavaria, and therefore it wasn't allowed. And this
Yeah.
happens a lot, I'm afraid. At Wimbledon it's happened. There's some woman had her yoghurt taken away from her because it wasn't the official yoghurt of Wimbledon.
That's outrageous. That's terrible.
Pathetic. It's Britishly pathetic.
But it's outrageous as
Take
well.
your yoghurt.
Yeah.
You can't hang your yoghurt.
The Bavaria Beer Company, that scam was a complete waste of trousers. in
It
the
was
end.
a waste
We've
of
got a
trousers.
brilliant idea.
Yeah. Oh, no. Exactly.
They
They
should have
won't
got them to
confiscate
tattoo.
thousands.
They should have got them to tattoo Bavarian beer on their foreheads.
Yes.
And then they'd have had to laser them before they go into the game.
I think
There'd be
that...
big zzz, and these people with burnt foreheads watching a game. That'd have been good. I'd have liked that. You know, that's why they... You know, when Premiership footballers get booked if they take their shirts off when they score a goal. It's because...
Oh, yeah.
That's the time you see the sponsor, isn't it? When they've scored a goal, you see the sponsor on the shirt. That's why FIFA made it a bookable offence to take off your shirt when you scored a goal, because that's the time when you get all the coverage.
Is that right?
You know, the Beano, you know. The Beano were going, Christ, we paid hundreds of millions to sponsor Man United, and Ronaldo takes his
All
shirt
you're seeing
off.
is some nipples.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what does lederhosen mean?
Leather trousers?
Leather pants, leather trousers, absolutely. It's one of those rather typical things where the upper classes decided to ape the peasantry in the 18th century and had these incredibly expensive wedding and country feasts in which they pretended to be, rather like, you know, Marie Antoinette with her silver milk churns pretending to be a milkmaid.
Now, the socks that man in the middle is wearing are very long socks, and just out of interest for you, that's something that I've turned to recently. I now favour the longer socks.
Do you? Can you take me through your reasoning?
Yes, I can. I'll show you.
Yeah.
The gentleman's sock.
The half hose, it's called the half hose.
Now, Joe, you, as a
Rob.
lady, you're going to think this sock is going to stop a lot sooner than it does. So, watch this. Look at that. Surely we've reached the peak.
Oh, my goodness me.
Surely we've peaked. No.
Oh, my word!
Surely.
He's wearing tights.
And can I say, not so much for Joe, but Stephen, Alan and Sean, I urge you to give it a go. Because it gives you a feeling of security.
They do make you look like a knobhead. Sorry, Rob.
Well, one of the problems men
They
have...
do.
There's a problem men have, Joe,
But
which
Stephen,
is that we wear away the hair on our shins by tight, short socks, don't we? Is that one of the things you're
sorry,
afraid
can I
of?
just say, by just carrying on the conversation, you imply that you agree with what Joe is saying.
What was going through my mind is how difficult it would ever be for a man to say that to a woman, that's all. And I thought, I'm not going to go in that direction. We allow women to be rude
Could you
to us,
please come
and
down
that's
on
fine if they
one
want to
side
be.
or the other here
Yeah.
of my... You're either
it is
with
true.
me or you're with her.
It's
Yeah.
true, but it's just as true that
Put it
women
this
make
way,
themselves
Rob.
look positively
make you look-
ridiculous occasionally.
It doesn't make you
too.
look cool. Put it that way. Nobody's going to go, I'm going to get a pair of those.
Well, at the risk of turning this into Ready, Steady, Cook, why don't we let the audience decide?
All those who think Rob is really onto something with the gentleman's half hose, as I believe they are technically called, the long sock, the Bryden long sock, could you please shout out, long sock?
Oh, it's not good.
That's not good, is it? I fear, without having to ask...
There's no need to carry on.
No, OK. Yeah. There's a class of ethnic immigrant now long established in America known as Pennsylvania Dutch. Where do you think they originally came from?
Germany.
Yes. The Rhineland and Switzerland.
See, I double bluffed you there.
Exactly, very good. But why would they be called Dutch?
Because the Americans can be bothered.
No, because they rightly recognise the word Dutch and Deutsch are the same word. Deutsch is Dutch.
Right.
And it was partly because what we now call the Dutch, the Hollanders, were at war with Britain many times and indeed, of course, invaded
You mentioned
England.
the war.
At war with, not the war.
You did.
It's a minefield.
Oh, my Lord.
Can I just say? Could I just say, Joe? Bit of a knobhead.
Now, what would you use this for? I have a picture of them here.
Oh,
Frighten the children.
It's a German invention.
Put a torch behind it, and then you creep up into their bedroom at night when they're asleep.
Well, it
Move
is
it very slowly across the room.
It's a thing that is used in the lavatory, in the
Air freshener?
WC. No, it's a habit. It's for men to do something when they go to the lavatory. It's to encourage them.
The seat... Anything to do with the seat?
It is to do with the
To
seat.
dive off it into the toilet.
No. Noble guess, but doomed. No.
Is
They
it
sit
so
down.
They
Do they
don't have
sit
to
down in
touch the
Germany?
seat?
It's if they lift the seat, which men tend to do before having a pee. This, I have one here. Here it is.
This is your toilet speaking. Wouldn't you rather like to sit down? Oh, you prefer to stand? Well, then you may leave now.
Poor German men don't actually get to go to the toilet then, do they? No wonder they're wearing that lederhosen and slapping themselves all the time.
No, the point is, in Germany, they think it's somehow unhygienic because they're splashing and things. They want the men to sit. So it's like, that's how it's attached. So when you lift up the seat, it starts speaking at you loud enough in a public lavatory for others to hear, so that men sit and have a pee. That's the idea.
Splashing is a problem. We've got builders in at the moment, and they're all using the lower loo. It is like the Centre Parks log flume in there.
Is that why you've got the long socks?
What I say to you and to every person here is, and don't knock it till you try. Yeah, I was the same as you. I thought they were ridiculous. Then I put them on, and I'm loving it.
How good can it be, though? Just a long
Yeah, I
sock?
know. Exactly. But have you tried it, Sean?
No.
Exactly. Try it, then come back to me.
I just gotta wonder what's going to happen to you when you go, like, skydiving. You go, wow, this is incredible.
I've
Forget
already
the
done-
socks, this is amazing!
I have been skydiving.
Have you tried jelly? That's nice. Oh, my God! The socks were good! This is incredible!
You know what? They laughed at Edison, you
Yes.
know.
Yeah. They laughed at a lot of weirdos as well, though, Rob. No, they did. I'm just, balancing that.
Yeah.
Anyway, these are called a Spuk, which is German for spook, but it's also an acronym, SPUK, that stands for Stehpinkler unter Kontrolle. Stehpinkeln is to stand urinating, as opposed to Sitzpinkeln, which is to sit urinating.
You're going to think I'm making this up, but when I sit down, if I'm wearing a heavy cord, a jumbo cord, for example, one of the things that annoys me more than anything else is when I put my trousers on and sit down. Sometimes it catches the long sock and takes it down to the and I sometimes will pull the sock up while I'm sitting there
what a
just to have that
nightmare.
nice feeling of control of the sock reaching the knee.
And just a minute, Rob. You're not a knobhead. You wear long socks and jumbo cords.
I said if I'm wearing. Sometimes I'll wear a jumbo cord.
Yeah.
You know what my dilemma is in that situation? Is what I often do is, if I'm sitting on the toilet, is I often take my glasses off. Right? 'Cause I don't like wearing them.
For distance.
I don't need them. I'm sat there for a while, I don't need my glasses.
Right.
So I often take my glasses off, and the pants act like a little hammock for the glasses. It gets worse, because if I put them in there, and then I might be sat there for some time, because my diet isn't the healthiest. I eat far more meat than I should. And then so I might sat there for 10 or 15 minutes. And then, when I'm finished, I stand up to pull my trousers up. I forget about my glasses.
Oh,
And I go, Oh, my glasses! And I've rammed my glasses deep into my under region.
Whoa.
And I cleaned this pair, I think.
Yeah. Well, I hope no one else has
Thanks
any
for
more.
sharing.
Yes, quite. Yeah. Well, anyway, the Spuck is a high-tech weapon in the German battle against men weeing on the floor. What do naked German students do for a living? The Nacktputzservice, if that means anything to you.
You can hire a naked person,
You can
not
hire a
just
naked
for
student.
life modelling or anything.
No, not for life modelling. For doing housework. Germans like to have naked students doing their hoovering and their housework for them.
Bizarre.
It's because nudism is a very German thing. Germans sort of, I wouldn't say they invented nudism, that's ridiculous, but they, as the kind of movement we know it did spring from Germany.
FKK.
FKK, very good point. Do you know what that stands for?
Freikorpus culture. Freikorpus culture?
Freikörperkultur, yeah, exactly. Free body culture is the... Well, you
it's
must
not a
have
se-
points
it's not
for
a-
that. How
not
do
a
you know about FKK?
I know about it. It's
Yeah.
it's famous in the 30s, wasn't it?
That's right.
A lot of nudism.
Until Hitler... And
I know some stuff.
Yes, I know you do. I was just interested. No, Goering, in particular, of all the high-echelon Nazis, loathed nudism and spoke out against it and said that the police must be trained to stop anybody going naked. But after that period, which must not be mentioned, it sprang up again. And now in Switzerland and places where there's an open border, in Poland, for example, hordes of naked German hikers are crossing the border and going hiking, and the Poles don't like it, the Swiss hate it, they all find it disgusting.
They love it in Germany, don't they?
And not only, of course, in beaches, but in the centre of Munich, the English Garden, the Englischer Garten, has a nudist area. And the biggest park in Berlin, the Tiergarten, has a nudist area too. Can't really imagine Hyde Park having a nude area, can you? Can you?
Because if you're a naturist in this country, I mean, it's just, you're on a hiding to nothing, aren't you?
It's not really the country for it.
It's not, no, it's not designed. It's still asking for punishment, aren't
You
you? I
are.
mean, Germany does have decent summers, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
You know, if it doesn't, it just expands to somewhere where the summers are better. Come on, man.
No,
If I was a nudist, what I'd do, I'd go nude, but just for a laugh, just before I left the caravan, I'd just get a little bit of tissue paper and stick it... See how long before someone mentioned it. He goes, are you playing volleyball? Who wants to come for a smoothie? Come on, I'm buying. So you go, Sean, you got... What?
Anyway, Nacktputzservice is the popular German practice of hiring students to clean your house in the nude. It's all in the finest tradition of the home of modern nudism. What's the most repeated TV show of all time?
Oh, Top Gear. It is, isn't it? It is.
You do get a lot
There's
of Top
not a
Gear.
time of day when it is not possible to watch Top Gear. It's true. It is
That is
on, and it's always a different one.
But this one is one programme.
One show that's the
One show. It's the most repeated show.
It's a German show.
It's a British comedian. Two
Called
British comedians.
The Duchess.
Sorry?
It's called The Duchess or something like that.
I
Or
think you know what I'm referring to, yeah.
The waiter or lady somebody. It's, yeah, it's a
He has to have
British
a drink.
comic being a waiter to a posh...
It's called Dinner for One.
That's right.
yeah.
And it's shown on every channel in Germany on December the 31st every year and has been since 1972.
Oh, and I know who's in it as well.
Yes.
Freddie Frinton.
Freddie Frinton, you're right, plays a butler who has to serve a Christmas dinner for his mistress, played by May Ward, who's rather mad and old, and pretend that there are other people there, and he pours out drinks for them and gets drunk himself. You can see a bit of it, here you are. You know, all right, it's broad humour, but it was...
Yeah, it's all very well in its own way, but what's going on with it every single channel, every single year?
It's become a cult. It's unavoidable in Germany. They have parties for it. It's just a tradition. It was a sketch done in 1920. They used to do it, you know, on the halls and all around the other places like that. And a German TV presenter saw it in 1963 and thought it was amusing and said, come and do it on German television. So they did it on German television once, then they did it again to record it. In 1972 they showed it, and they've showed it ever since. And it's become so popular. I think, to give the Germans their credit, they laugh as much ironically at it as we would if we saw it. It's just one of those things that happens to have become an extraordinary tradition.
I was
And
in
it's-
Denmark.
And it's spread to Denmark and Austria and all around
Is
Europe.
there any dialogue at all?
So, yeah, this line, the same procedure as last year, Miss Sophie, and she says, the same procedure as last year, James. And then at the very end, when she's going up to bed and she says the same procedure as last year, she says, I'll do my best. So that's the sort of punchline, you know.
I'm quite glad we've got the Great Escape over here.
Yeah, that's our tradition. If you might exactly
Not on every
argue the
channel,
same. Not
though.
on every channel, I agree. It is pretty extreme. It's almost impossible to avoid Dinner for One with Freddie Frinton. Anyway, what did Uncle Wiggly Wings ever do for Germany?
It sounds like a children's character, Uncle Wiggly Wings.
Well, he was someone who helped children. What are we looking at here? We're looking from a high point down on children who are looking...
Abandoned orphans calling for a helicopter to please airlift me out of here.
Airlift is a good word. Stick with the word airlift. What does airlift in Germany bring to mind?
Berlin.
The Berlin airlift.
The war.
No, it doesn't. It's not the war.
No, it's during the Cold War, when
The Cold War you can mention, all right.
when they blockaded
Berlin.
West Berlin.
Yes, the Russians completely closed off the city of Berlin, which was in their sector, the eastern sector, in 1948. And for over a year, Berlin was completely cut off from the rest of the world. And so they dropped food, millions of tons of food. The Americans, the British, so on, dropped it. And there was an American pilot who had 2 sticks of gum, and he gave it to some kids. And he said, if you'd share it amongst each other, I'll come back tomorrow and I'll give you more candy. And so when he flew over the last time, he wiggled his wings over them and dropped some chocolate. And he'd do this each day. More and more children came, and it took on and became a huge propaganda coup for every year. And it was called Operation Little Victuals. And children in America provided their own candy. And, of course, the candy corporations caught on. And huge tonnage of sweets.
It sounds lovely, but do you imagine a Terry's chocolate orange heading down at you at great speed?
But you see what that boy's holding up there? The little hanky-style
That's no
parachutes.
match for the Terry's chocolate orange.
And of course, the chocolate orange could have landed like the bouncing bomb that it did in the war.
Oh, no. This is just dirty.
If a chocolate orange were to land like a bouncing bomb, that would be a good thing, because if you hit it, it would go boom.
It would be lovely,
It would just
wouldn't
open up nicely.
Oh, it'd
wouldn't
be
it?
gorgeous. 2,223,000 tons of supplies were dropped.
Not in the one go.
Over
Because that would have just buried them.
over a year. That's the airlift itself. During the Berlin airlift, American pilot Gail Halvorson used handkerchief parachutes to drop sweets to the children of Berlin. He was known as Uncle Wiggly Wings. What's bound to happen eventually when you get into an argument on the internet?
Imagine you'd go away at some point and have a word with yourself and go, why am I wasting my
Yes,
life? There's plenty of people I can have an argument with outside.
It's one of the most dispiriting views of the world, isn't it? An internet message board, when you see what some people will write and how worked up they'll get about this one. Well, you... It just shows that you're a... and all the other have been with their own for the last... Why don't you...
Sounds like they've got a problem with their keyboard. They've got... angry.
Well, there's a thing called Godwin's Rule. Do you know this?
No.
It's called Godwin's Rule of Nazi Analogies. It basically says that as an online discussion grows longer, the probability of a comparison involving Nazis or Hitler approaches 1.
Yes.
And it actually happened. Eventually someone will say, that's what Hitler did, or that's what the Nazis did, or that argument...
how it
Do you see what I mean?
started.
And there is a sort of unwritten rule that the moment that happens, that thread is over, that ends it. And that the person who uses that pathetic analogy is deemed to have lost the argument.
Imagine if you're having an internet discussion about the founding of the Nazi
Well,
Party.
that obviously would be an exception, wouldn't
He
it?
started off,
Yeah.
they go, right, that's it, it's over. I'm just trying to get a nice discussion going.
No, I think that would be allowed.
And who's this Godwin, then?
Well, he's General Counsel for Wikimedia Foundation, but it's a very, very apt and intelligent observation that any argument deteriorates to that point, you might as well end it, because it's nearly always inappropriate, people will say. Hitler liked that, therefore it's bad. Or Hitler didn't like that, therefore it's good, you know. Hitler, for example, was massively opposed to fox hunting. He thought it was cruel and terrible, and so he banned it. So therefore it must be right, because Hitler, you know, that's just a mad argument. You know?
Oh, my God, look at his
what Hitler-
socks.
Hey!
That's what Hitler...
Whoa!
But I've lost the argument.
But you see, he's brought in Hitler to
I've
prove
used
that your
Hitler
socks
to
are bad.
yeah.
Yeah, but I feel in the broader picture, I've come off the worst out of this.
Yeah. Reductio ad Hitlerum, it's called.
Are you saying he looks like a knobhead?
Well,
Yeah, so you're saying Hitler looks like a knobhead now, eh?
He looks like he's turning around to someone saying, look, I'm ready. Are you? You've been hours getting dressed. Let's just go out. He doesn't look that.
Well, listen, say what you like about him. Great socks.
yeah, true. Yeah, fine socks. Yes, Godwin's law states that as an online discussion grows longer, the probability of a comparison involving Nazis or Hitler approaches 1. How would you use a Monopoly set to escape from a prison camp?
I could see how you might use a buckaroo.
Just fly out over the fence.
I mean, you'd probably just keep ending up on the barbed wire. Again, try it with the bucket.
Yeah, is it the old covering up the hole with it?
Well,
Like in Shawshank?
no, there was a man whose nickname was Clutty Hutton, who in Britain bought up lots of Monopoly boards and turned them into escape kits that he then set up through MI9 with these pretend charities.
So
that
that
would-
you'd get a get out of jail free card. That's a very good idea.
It was. No, what was brilliant
cunning
was
the secret
that hidden in the Monopoly board were incredibly useful things.
File.
Like a small dog, tiny hat, and a little ship.
There would be real money interspersed with the Monopoly money. There would be maps on silk, because it obviously tried it on paper. It's too bulky and rustly, but on silk, on parachute silk, you get an enormous amount of detail and tiny. That's an example of his earlier work, putting a compass in a military tunic button. The Germans got wise to this. They'd unscrew them, eat the buttons, and they'd see it. So then they reversed the thread. So when the Germans unscrewed it, they in fact tightened the button. Then they got wise to that. So then he used razor blades, which were magnetised at one end, so that when they were attached to something metal, they would spin round with the G of Gillette would point north, which was very good. So they were well disguised.
They said, now look, we put the normal thread on.
Yeah.
Old Kraut, he's unscrewing it.
Yeah.
Then what we've done is we've put it the other way. So when he's unscrewing it,
Yeah.
he's actually tightening it.
That's right.
Now we've gone a step further. We've done one here. You can't get the top off.
Isn't there a flaw in that, sir?
Don't complicate it. Don't complicate it, Perkins. No one's going to see this bloody compass, that's for sure. Give it a try. You won't get it off.
Oh, very good, sir.
In
Right,
many
that's
ways, it's become what I call a button.
If I was the German camp commandant, I'd have made them all wear duffel coats.
If it was me, if I was in charge, I would have started shipping out giant Jengas.
Would you?
Well, then you just build them up. You know the Jengas you get in pub gardens?
Yes,
Just massive one, just hop over the fence.
Brilliant. If only you'd been in charge then.
Or snakes and ladders, but with actual ladders.
Yes.
And real snakes to scare the Germans.
Scare the Germans.
Good British snakes who didn't like the look of a German soldier and would go up to them and go...
What about if they gave them toy tanks, but really big ones? Then they could just drive straight out. And turn around and go, take this, Jerry.
What if they were to send the prisoners of war very long socks and concealed inside the socks are big files to file down the bars?
Well, they said the blankets, which when wetted, gave the outline of a greatcoat, which they could cut out, so it's like a tailor's template to make a greatcoat with, and pens with hidden sacks of dye in to make them in different colours, and playing cards that when you threw them in water, they peeled aside to have money in them. It's a really clever stuff, double laminated.
Can't believe the Germans gave them their post after a while.
Well, they didn't know. Obviously, they had to hide the fact they got all that. Anyway, Monopoly boards were amongst the ordinary items which were sent to help escaping prisoners. But now it's time to navigate our way through the hostile territory of General von Ignorance. So, fingers on buzzers, if you please. Who wrote Brideshead Revisited?
There's even more.
Sorry. That was, yes. Of course he did, Evening War, Brideshead. Of course he did, of course he did. I was just checking whether or not you'd remembered not to mention
It's not
wars.
pronounced like that, is it? It's Evelyn Waff.
No, if only it were. But firstly, what breed of dog is this, in fact? Yeah.
A German Shepherd.
Is the right answer.
Yeah.
You avoided saying Alsatian. They used to be called Alsatians until...
They became German
Alsace
Shepherds.
and Lorraine went back to France.
Until 1977.
Oh.
Yeah. It was the First World War thing, this whole business of not liking anything with the word German in it or anything.
Is that why it was stopped, really?
Yeah, it was that reason that anything with the name German in it was sort of taboo for a long time. And so they were called Alsatian wolfhounds, and then the wolfhound was dropped, and they were called Alsatians.
We used to have one.
Did you?
Yeah.
Nice? Friendly?
Yeah, it's lovely dog, but it did kill next door's dog.
Whoops.
And when it happened, did you say, well, he's never done that before?
Yeah.
You had to go to court, didn't you, over all that?
Yeah.
And then you had to go to prison, didn't you?
No.
And then I sent you some Monopoly.
Yeah. Happy days.
Yeah. The term Alsatian was coined in 1918, but the Schäferhund officially reverted to being a German Shepherd in 1977. A trip to the Munich Oktoberfest might be nice. When would be the best time to go?
September.
Yes. It's not October. It occasionally leaks into October, depending on the way the months are sort of...
You'd definitely leak if you drank all that
Well,
beer.
you certainly would. It is possibly the world's largest regular festival or fair. Over 6 million people cram into it.
I didn't like it, actually. I spent one night there, 2 nights there.
Yeah.
And everyone was so drunk. It was idiotic. It was these huge, long tents full of pissed-up Australians. Who I love.
I went to the World Cup in '98 in France, and in Bordeaux they built, and it's sort of similar size to that, in the middle of the town square. They put temporary bars up, and then Scotland played Norway, and the Scots arrived, and they drank more beer in the weekend than they normally drink in Bordeaux in a year. Every single one of these bars served only lager, and there were no food stalls at all, and no toilets.
Oh!
It was unbelievable. But it was one of the best nights of my life. And then one of them went to me, Alan! Right across the bar, Alan! 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 Partridge! Then he started going, aha! Aha! The rest of every time I saw him for the rest of the night, aha! It was very funny.
Yeah, it's a huge, huge event. I mean, they drink 6,940,600 litres of beer. It's horrifying, isn't it? Most of the Oktoberfest takes place in September and knocks into a cocked hat the idea that Germans don't know how to have a good time. Now, a musical question. What's wrong with this?
Cream-coloured ponies and crisp apple strudels, doorbells and sleigh bells and schnitzel with noodles.
Schnitzel with noodles.
Yes, schnitzel with noodles. Schnitzel is almost never served with noodles. It might be occasionally now simply because of the song, but it basically rhymes with strudels, let's be honest. That's why...
Could have had it with a poodle, then?
Yes.
You've ruined the film for a lot of people.
I hope not.
The magic. I mustn't tell my kids that.
No, please don't. It's a wonderful song. And who wrote the lyrics?
It was Rodgers and Hammerstein.
The lyrics were, therefore, Oscar Hammerstein.
Yeah.
The second, yes, absolutely. How does the film end? There it is. They sing
Don't they
Farewell.
get over the border and
Where do they get to?
supposedly into Switzerland?
Well, actually, they
get part
arrive
in a
in
musical,
Bavaria, in quite near Hitler's private house in Bavaria. Hitler's sitting down to have supper, and his family singing about goat herds arrives. It's all very odd. But there's the border, there's Salzburg, there's Bavaria. In fact, what the family did do, you're right, they walked the 100 kilometres all the way down to, you see where Innsbruck is, down towards the Italian border. That's the way they did it. The Italian border was conveniently open. They very luckily got there the day before the Italian border was closed to Austria. So it was very fortunate. So it's a little bit artistic licence, but it's worth it. Of course, one of the great masterpieces of modern culture. Good. Now, lastly, what happens in Germany at 11/11 on the 11th of November every year?
Everything carries on as normal.
No, there is something special happens.
The 11th of September.
11th of November. 11/11 on the 11th of
Phone rings and the British Prime Minister says, we won. Which war, though? Which war was that?
Yeah, well, it is, of course, we celebrate on the 11th of the 11th. The armistice of the First World War, but they don't celebrate the armistice of the not surprisingly. They have a much older celebration that takes place there, oddly enough. It's their carnival, and it runs all the way from the 11th of November right through to Ash Wednesday. And it's a huge, as I say, it goes on, I mean, it starts quite slowly in November, there's December, and there's Christmas, and then through January, and then reaches fever pitch at the time of Mardi Gras.
Right.
And carnival, what does carnival mean, the word carnival? Do you know?
Eating Valerie.
Well, carne is meat, yeah. And there's an incorrect belief that it means goodbye to meat, vale, as in, you know, valediction, but it actually means carne levare, to leave the meat, literally, to remove meat from your diet. Carnival season in Germany officially begins at 11/11 on the 11th day of the 11th month every year. Resistance has proved futile, and for us, the game is over. All that remains is for the scores to be meted out. And, yes, in first place, our fluent German speaker. With ein magnificent, ein ausgezeichnet. -6, Joe Brand. Und auf Platz 2 mit -7, Rob Brydon.
Good or bad? I don't know.
Aber auf Platz 3 mit -36 Alan Davis. Und auf dem letzten Platz, Gott im Himmel, mit -76 Sean Locke.
Thank you.
That's Sean. As I'm sure you know, was -76, possibly a record. Yes. So it's Auf Wiedersehen und Gute Nacht von dieser QI-Ausgabe und von Rob, Sean, Joe, Alan und mir. I leave you with the story about the Bloomsbury Group writer, Lytton Strachey, who was, how should I put it, a confirmed bachelor, an aesthete, and also a conscientious objector and a pacifist. And he appeared before the Conscientious Objection Board, and they were obviously going to quiz him on whether or not he truly was it or was just a coward trying to get out of serving. They said, Mr. Strachey, are you married? No, he said. Well, they said, well, do you have a sister? He said, yes, I do have a sister. They said, well, suppose a German soldier came and tried to rape her, what would you do? He said, well, in that case, I would endeavour to place myself between them.
Creativity goes awry next on BBC Two with new comedy The Persuasionists.